You know, if I had a nickel for every time Charli XCX released an album with a lime green cover that confused me at first, but ended up exceeding my expectations, I'd have 2 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice, right? Last Friday, Charli XCX released her album titled Brat, and it's completely different but also still Brat, which contains a remix of every song on the original Brat, each featuring a distinct artist. At first, when she announced this title, I was skeptical. Was she really about to remix every single song as she'd done for a few already? Or was it going to be brand new music? But not only has this instantly become one of my newest obsessions and favorite albums of 2024, it honestly might be one of the most genius albums of the entire year because, well, it's both. The fact that all these remixes pivot from their original counterparts in new and interesting directions makes for an album that is familiar yet almost entirely new at the exact same time. As Charli herself said, the idea behind this album is the idea that music can always be mutated, which is especially an important thing within club and rave culture, but something Charli I think is bringing to mainstream as well. This idea that even after you put out a song, it can and even should be mutated and added to and morphed, because you never know what new brilliant thing you might come up with. And the fact that almost all these remixes, at least to me, are on par with, if not even better than their original counterparts, I think says a lot to that point, and the amount of just craft that went into this album. I've seen people online saying this remix album is really for the Angels and Charli's longtime fans, and I can understand that sentiment, but honestly, I disagree. I think the original Brat could be perceived the same way too, where it's kind of just for the fans. It's very within Charli's corner of music, and yet Brat still went mainstream. The reason being more so its daringness and ingenuity. It was a genre and style that's not super popular necessarily, but the manner in which Charli perfected and pushed forward that genre made it go mainstream, something I talked about a bit in my Brat and CXOXO analysis video. In a way, I think this remix album shares that same daringness and ingenuity, pushing forth the barriers of music in new ways through how each song is mutated. I mostly went into this without any prior expectations other than what I knew from the existing remixes before the album dropped, knowing that she could have some typical remixes where a new artist just replaces an existing verse, but more likely than not, we were going to effectively get a bunch of brand new music. And that new music did not disappoint one bit. I'm not even super familiar with a lot of the artists that she featured, but this album alone makes me want to check out some of their music, which is in itself an incredible feat. And so while I don't think it'll be nearly as mainstream as the original Brat, I think it still stands head to head and can leave a lasting legacy even among non-fans. But that's enough gushing about the album. I could keep going on, but let's get into what we're actually here to do, which is to rank all these remixes. To clarify, what I'm going to be ranking in this video is not just kind of track by track my least favorite to my favorite remixes. I might include that at the end of the video, but rather what I want to spend the time on in this video is ranking how these remixes compare to their original counterparts. I think that's much more interesting. This is very similar to what I did with Little Mix's remixes in another video, where I'm taking each remix and I'm talking about, does it outshine the original? Is it not as good? Is it on par? And using that to kind of rank them, if that makes sense. So to do that, I'm going to be sorting them into the following 5 tiers, and I tried to name each tier after a lyric on Brat. I did my best, I don't know. Tier number 5 is going to be called It's a Knife. And by that, I mean that it's a skip. It's a chop. It could have been done away with in a sense. What I mean is it's a remix I don't really ever see myself coming back to, and I still prefer the original song. Tier number 4 is called Good But Not Quite, which parallels the lyric I'm famous but not quite. And this is for remixes that I like. They're good, they're fun, I have a great time with them, but they are not quite as good as the original song. So we're getting there, but still the original outshines. Tier number 3 is the midpoint. This is where we reach remixes that I feel are on par with the originals. So I've called this tier Bumpin' That Beat because, you know, we're bumping that beat. We're having a good time. It's on par. It's on par with the original version. Tier number 2 is called Work It Out, you know, seemingly the catchphrase of this album. This tier is for remixes I actually enjoy a bit more than the original song. They worked it out. There is something about the remix that hooks me in more. It's just more enjoyable. Maybe it fixes some issue in the original song, or I don't know, I just enjoy it more. Finally, tier number 1 is called Girl So Confusing, named after the grandmother of all the remixes. I know, not the first remix, but I think really what popularized the whole remix trend. We'll talk more about it when we get to that song. This is going to be the opposite end of tier 5. Tier 5 is where I don't see myself coming back to the remix. Tier number 1 is where the original song is actually kind of obsolete because the remix is so good, and I really only see myself coming back to the remix instead. And I've called it Girl So Confusing because it's like, girl, I'm so confused, why was this not the original song, I don't know, guys, I'm trying. So that's the tier list, and just to clarify again, it's a comparative ranking. Something that is ranked in tier number 2 is not necessarily a remix that I enjoy more than a remix ranked in tier number 3 or 4. All it means is that relative to the original counterpart of the song, I like that remix more. Does that make sense? I think it'll be clear as we go, but the actual track by track ranking is going to be different. And I will probably throw that in at the end as like a treat. So you can see my track by track and you can, attack me for that separately. But we're just going to talk about the remixes now, one by one. We're going to go through and we're going to sort them into these tiers. Let's do it.
Everybody in the club dancing on their own. Supersonic, push up on it right in your ear.
For all my gushing about how incredible this album is, the genius of it all, I think it's ironic that we are starting on 360 because, well, it's a knife. I hate to start on a sour note, and I know some of y'all will already be clamoring to my comments to tell me how overhated this remix is or that I just don't get it. But it's true, I don't get this one. To me, where this remix fails is the chorus. I think the new verses and the raps are really fun and great. I love the back and forth between Charli, Robin, and Young Lean. Like, really nothing against these features, they're doing a great job. But the chorus in the remix doesn't really live up to the original, in my opinion. The main motif of the original 360 is Bumpin' That, the motif of the entire album, which is entirely gone in the remix. Instead, the new motif is Got That, which is repeated throughout the chorus, and I don't know, it just doesn't hit as hard. So the remix isn't terrible, but I just have a lot more fun with the original 360. And again, remember, this is a comparative ranking of each remix to its original. Though at the same time, this is also probably one of my least favorite remixes on the entire album. It's okay though, we're starting in tier number 5, so we can only go up from here. And we go up, that's for sure.
When I get to the club, I wanna hit the club. It's like
They said it themselves, this one is an automatic classic. I think it's so iconic how she changed the original club classics. The original club classics is a celebration of club culture in general. Charli does ultimately come to this conclusion of like, I want to dance to me, I'm making that club music everyone wants to dance to, but she also shouts out a lot of other artists, and the motif is like, put your hands up and dance, right? It's a celebration of going out and dancing at the club. This song is literally just like fully leaning into the self-appraisal, where she pretty much just remixes her own songs, mainly 365 and Back to Back, right? And saying these are the club classics. Y'all are dancing to my music, I know it, because Brat has become so popular, and I'm gonna brag about it. I love that. I love it so much. This remix is just so fun. BB Trix's verse is great. It's immaculate. The production is so good on this. The original Club Classics has always been fun to me, but not as much of a standout, I think, on the original Brat. Meanwhile, I have found myself constantly coming back to this remix. It's just so addicting. The ending where it's like, who the fuck are you? I'm a brat. Like, when it's slowed down, come on. Like, I laughed out loud when I first heard that, but it's like, it's fun. It's just a fun time, which really is the beauty of this album, taking the concept of each song and just running wild with it. The original isn't obsolete by any means, so this isn't a tier 1 remix, but it is better than the original, so I'm going to put it in tier 2. Work it out. They worked it out. They did the thing. So if you've been following me for a while, you'll know not only is Sympathy is a Knife my favorite on the original Brat, but Ariana Grande is also one of my favorite artists of all time. So you can probably guess this was my most anticipated remix, because obviously I was excited for whatever she was going to do with this song in the first place. But to see a Miss Ari as the feature, I fell out of my chair. I was like, this is going to be this shit, At the same time, I was also a bit confused because she doesn't really fit into the original message and theme of Sympathy is a Knife. I would have loved to hear Ariana's insane vocals and harmonies on the original chorus, but it also wouldn't really make sense to hear Ariana Grande sing, I couldn't even be her if I tried. She kind of is her. So on the one hand, while I love the original Sympathy is a Knife for its message, its content, and the vulnerability of the chorus in particular, I knew they had to change it. And I will admit, at first, when I listened to the remix, I liked it a lot, but it didn't blow me away. But that's probably because I was expecting it to clear my skin and fix all my life problems. So after a few listens, the remix instantly grew on me, and it's now easily one of my favorites on the album. Another one that I simply cannot stop listening to. And I think that's because the remix just is a recipe for success. You take the loud production of the original, the fun beat and chords that makes that song really hit you right in the feels, combined with Ariana's added vocals and harmonies on top of Charli's vocals, it's just pop perfection. I don't really know what else to say. And ultimately, I do like the pivot they took with this song, making it more about just general mistreatment by the media and fake fans. This is a tremendous remix, and I still can't get enough of it. Due to the fact that the original Sympathy still has its own unique strengths to me, and it's still my favorite on the original Brat, I think this remix is not necessarily better, but it stands head to head. So we're putting it in tier number 3, bumping that beat. Again, to clarify, this doesn't mean I like it less than Club Classics or anything else I place in higher tiers. This is still like my top 3 on the album. It's just about comparing to the original, and I don't really know if she was going to be able to clear the original Sympathy as a Knife anyways. So getting something on par is honestly a treat to me. I'm still very happy.
In my house in LA, thinking of giving up everything.
This is how I imagine a conversation between Maddie Healy and Charli XCX went down to prepare for doing this song together. So yeah, I think you'd be an excellent feature on the remix for I Might Say Something Stupid. Really, Charli, and why's that? No specific reason, having to do with the content of the song or, how you might relate in particular to this title. No, I just thought you'd sound good on it. Okay. Yeah, and I just thought you could add an interesting perspective on, saying stupid things. Yeah. Hey, didn't you say you were hoping that me and Taylor would break up? Wait, what? Anyways, I could clown on Maddie Healy continuously, but I do have to give credit where credit is due. This remix is really good. I just love how she takes the original sad, vulnerable concept of I Might Say Something Stupid and just pivots it in a whole new direction with this piano and synthy production that's so ethereal. Y'all already know this is the kind of shit I love. I mean, when the piano first came in, I was hooked. I mean, why else am I a Lana Del Rey stan? But also, when it comes to the message, it's kind of the opposite of the original in a way. The original song is very sad, obviously, with Charli feeling bad about her own social anxiety and her place in the music industry, not being sure where she belongs. And then the remix almost kind of parodies that self-pity. Like, yeah, I could complain about my inability to belong, but it's really just my own doing, and all I'm really doing is rotting in my home in LA, feeling bad about myself. I don't know. I think it's gorgeous. And again, the production of the remix is what really sells it. Similar to Sympathy, I do still adore the original song. I do still find it to have its own unique strengths. So I wouldn't say this remix outdoes it, but it stands head to head. It's phenomenal, and she's going in tier number 3 once again. Hot take, I don't actually care too much about this remix in particular. I know this was like a big deal, but to me, it kind of has always felt more like something they put together for the Sweat Tour rather than like an organic remix. I don't know. It's probably a hot take. Someone's gonna cancel me for saying that. Whatever, I'm used to it. Also, why is Dua Lipa in and out for like 2 seconds just saying these lines in Spanish and French? Girl, give her a verse. I do think I still prefer the original Talk, mainly because of the shyness of the song. That was always something that made Talk really stand out to me. You're in the club, you see this guy you think is cute, and you're like, and you want to talk to him, but you're kind of scared. I followed you to the bathroom, but then I felt crazy. I really love that vibe. It makes it feel a lot more cutesy, almost like that's what really made original Talk stand out to me. And this remix isn't bad by any means, but I do miss the original chorus and miss some of the lyrics in the original. They do pivot it in this just kind of like, I'm hot, you're hot, let's fuck kind of vibe. The remix is good, not quite on par with the original to me, and so we're putting it in tier number 4, good but not quite. So this is the remix that's been around for the longest, right? Even so, I actually have never really listened to it that much. Maybe like once, and I would see clips online of like Addison Scream. But even though it's been around for a while, I've only now really listened to it as I've been listening through the remix album and just kind of letting it play through on. And I don't know, it's kind of just become an earworm to me. I am obsessed with this remix. It's so good. For some reason, Addison Rae really complements the song well. Her big ad-lib later is like phenomenal. Like she actually sounds so good here. And I think it's because the whole like fuck the haters vibe works really well with Addison Rae. Like, yeah, people did have a lot to say about her debut, but look at her now. She's touring with Charli XCX. She's really living that life, even though people have always and continue to drag her 24/7. This one was kind of hard to place because while I do love the remix, the original Von Dutch is also like an incredible song to me, has always been like my top 3 on the original Brat. I feel like I keep saying that every song is my favorite, but like Brat is a really good album. What can I say? And honestly, at times I felt like this remix even outdoes it, but then I listened listen back to the original, I'm like, no, wait, the original is still like that girl. So I don't know. I think I'm gonna put this in tier number 3, bumping that beat. That's kind of the case with tier number 3, as you might notice. The original to me is special in some way, and the remix is also special in its own way, so they kind of just like even each other out. And that's definitely the case with Von Dutch as well. Everything is Romantic with Caroline Polachek is, I think, really what solidified this remix album to be so phenomenal to me, because I think it's the epitome of taking these songs and pushing their concepts and genres in entirely new, further directions, right? This remix acts kind of like a foil to the original song. It's so similar yet so different, taking themes and almost entirely spinning them in this new light and perspective. You know, we go from this loud, energetic, upbeat, driven production to this much more like vulnerable, rainy, midnight vibe. On this song, on the remix, with Caroline Polachek doing now most of the vocals, right? There's the intro of the song, which has this kind of parallel structure lyrically, and that kind of mirrors the album cover. If you think about it, they both form these like triangles in the way they're structured. And I think that goes to show how this remix really encapsulates the theme and concept of this album. And there's this beautiful dialogue between her and Charli, mainly in the verse, right? But also interspliced kind of throughout the song, that I think really kind of makes it all explicit, the whole theme of Brat. The theme of this album has always been, you know, being that party girl, being that it girl, but then having these realizations about your place, your life, where's your life headed, and not losing sight of the things that matter to you. And I think that's especially taken a toll on Charli with Brat becoming so mainstream, and this remix really shows that. There's the line at the end, living that life is romantic, right? That's kind of the thesis of the entire album. And I think it's beautiful the way it's portrayed here as like a dialogue, like literally them on the phone in the song. It's just brilliant. It's so good. The same reason I think people love Girl So Confusing with Lorde and the genius of that remix, I think it's present here as well. And I haven't even mentioned the vocals. Are you kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? The production is immaculate. The harmonies are immaculate. The vocals and falsettos are immaculate. I cannot get enough of this remix. It's so beautiful. I could gush on and on, but I'll leave it at that. I'm putting this one in tier number 2 because it doesn't outshine the original to the point where the original is obsolete. I think the original still has value in its kind of more upbeat production. I still really have a good time with it. But I do love the remix more. This was easily one of the biggest highlights of the remix album. I definitely want to go check out Caroline's music now because, girl, those vocals, oh my god.
Don't make the time again. I must confess I'm under stress, I'm under pressure in my head.
Unfortunately, I think Rewind featuring Blade is probably my least favorite remix on the new album. Rewind has always been a song I've enjoyed on Brad but never felt particularly strongly about, and the remix isn't doing anything wrong, it just didn't stand out to me very much. I have nothing against Blade, the artist that's featured here, but I don't know, I don't really like his verse. It kind of takes me out of the song. So yeah, it's a knife. I don't really have much to say about it. We're just gonna move right along. I apologize if you are a stan of this remix. I don't know, I might have just offended a ton of people, but again, I've accepted it at this point. As I mentioned with tier number 3, these are for songs where the original is special in some way and the remix is special in its own way. And I think that is 100% the case with So I. This is going in tier number 3. I really do love how the remix is not another vocalist on it. It's, you know, A.G. Cook, right? With his own production. And in that way, it just makes the remix another tribute to Sophie. In its own really beautiful way, with Charli reminiscing on all these different moments they all had together. And the production really amping that up and adding these new flourishes that weren't in the original. I don't think it necessarily outshines the original though, because I do love the ballady nature of the original song. It takes its time, it's melodic, it's beautiful. But again, the remix is beautiful in its own way. So yeah, we're gonna put it in tier number 3 and just keep going.
I'm glad I know how you feel, cause I ride for you, Charli.
Can y'all guess which tier this one is going into? Yeah. Tier number 1. To reiterate, I'm aware that this was not the first remix released during the original Brat album cycle, but to me, this is really the one that made the whole remix thing trendy and frankly, what helped bring the original Brat into mainstream. I mean, I wasn't even super interested in Brat until I heard so many people obsessing over this remix in particular and how Charli and Lorde effectively mended an entire friendship through the song. Like, let's just all go back in time for a second and remember how absolutely crazy and earth-shattering that was. This is where Let's Work It Out on the remix came from. This was crazy, but I'm so glad it exists for that reason. This is not an insult to the original Girl So Confusing. It's fun, I get why it's there, but the remix does effectively make the original obsolete. Because it's the same song, but we also get this incredible verse from Lorde laying out the other side of the relationship being talked about, with some really heartfelt and powerful lyrics over the same addicting beat in the background. Then we get some more layered vocals between the two of them in the final chorus. Like, it just adds so much. Without the Let's Work It Out on the remix, the original song just feels kind of empty. I don't know. Girl So Confusing was and is the moment primarily because of the remix. I don't think it needs too much explaining. It's a phenomenal remix. I still can't get over it. And it's in tier number 1.
I've been looking at you so long now, I only see me. I've been looking at you so long now.
As I've said time and time again, a lot of this album is taking the concept of the original song and really running wild with it. And Apple, the original, is a song about generational trauma. It's about things that are passed down from generations before you and trying to mend those issues. But it's kind of sugar-coated in this really fun, happy, upbeat production, you know, the fun dance that was going viral. That's really what the song became about. This remix, I think, really leans into the sadder, vulnerable, more thoughtful side of the song and really takes that as far as it can, especially through the Japanese houses parts, which are really gorgeous in my opinion. However, the fun upbeatness of the original song did go viral for a reason. It's a ton of fun. So I think while this remix is great and it's really beautiful in how it pushes the concept of the song even further, I think I do still prefer the original ever so slightly. So we're gonna put this in tier number 4. Good, but not quite. I'm starting to hate the title I gave to this tier because it makes it sound like these remixes actually are not good when that's not the case at all. Like, they're really strong remixes. It's just that it's a very high bar to clear to be on par with or even better than some of these original songs. I also do love the connection this remix makes to I Think About It All the Time, which validates my analysis, connecting these two songs as well. So, props to me. I have been going back and forth on this one because while Back to Back is probably one of my favorites off the original Brat, yes, I know I've said that for like every song, so I don't know if that means anything more, but just leave me alone. This remix is also so fun, and it really is like wholesome more than anything to me. It's a celebration of Charli and Tinashe's hard work over the years, how they keep putting things out back to back, how they're working back to back hours, but they're making it happen. They're getting their dreams are kind of finally coming true, and it's really beautiful and fun in that way with this like fun upbeat vibe to it. It's almost kind of the opposite of the original Back to Back, which is a lot more self-doubtful and anxious, you know? Tinashe's vocals on this remix are also amazing, and she blends so perfectly with Charli. It's crazy. Honestly, I think she could have done even more because of how perfectly their voices go together. It's just a fun time, but I do think I still prefer the original Back to Back ever so slightly. That production is just so powerful and so hooky. I just have a blast with it. So the remix is a lot of fun, but I'll put this in tier 4 for now. Mean Girls, the original Brat song, has always been one I felt kind of iffy about. Sometimes it's like really good and fun. Sometimes I don't really care for it and I skip it. It has its moments. My favorite part of Mean Girls has always been that piano part that comes in later in the song. It's so addicting. It's so just like fun. So that being the focus of the remix made the remix shoot up tremendously for me. I love this remix so much. This remix actually kind of pulls back the upbeat energy of the original song. It really just focuses on the piano. It has a simple beat to it. And I don't know, it just makes it a lot more fun to me, a lot more just kind of like chill. Also, who's this man? Because his voice is kind of... it's really smooth. I love his verses. I think it's really funny how like his verses are totally not related at all to the topic of the song or the original song, and it's just kind of its own new thing, but like go off. It's still really good and profound. And I love, again, the motif of Work It Out that's present throughout this song, the way it comes in at the start and comes back at the end. I honestly think I'm gonna put this in tier 1. Like that piano, it just scratches an itch in my brain so right, and that being the focus of this remix just instantly made it like a 10 out of 10.
But I was scared to run out of time. I think about it all the time.
So this is my only true skip on the original Brat. I really don't like. I think about it all the time. The lyrics are very meaningful. I love the message being portrayed, but I just never really liked Charli's vocal delivery or the production on her vocals in the original song. It's very nasally. It has this kind of happy-go-lucky, like kids boppy vibe, it just doesn't work for me. That's why I was particularly excited for this remix because, I mean, Bon Iver is great, and like I said, I do really like the message of this song, so I was excited to see if I'd like this version better. And guys, this might be my new favorite. I don't know. I don't know what crack she is putting in this album. I don't. This remix has this kind of like nature production to it. The way the beat kicks in throughout the song, it kind of speaks to your soul almost. I don't know how to describe. I'm not making any sense in this video. And especially with the inclusion of Bon Iver's voice, which really complements that production, and it adds this kind of like Disney movie vibe to it. Again, I could imagine myself driving at night to this song or walking, through like a forest. I don't know. That's kind of what I imagine. And I think that really enhances the message of the song because it's a very natural human message about family, wanting to start a family and balancing that with career. And because of the production being so much better to me, I've really begun to listen to these lyrics and like, holy shit, this song is deep. It cuts so deep. I mean, just listen to the difference on the titular lyric.
I think about it all the time, that I might run out of time. I think about it all the time, was I made for this song?
It's so stark and it makes the remix feel 10 times more powerful. It's so beautiful how we go back and forth between these big vocal moments and then Charli just talking about her life. It makes the song feel so real and vulnerable. And there's a lot of really new added lyrics in this remix as well that I think are super powerful. I mean, you're not supposed to stop working when things start working. Are you kidding me? To me, this is easily the biggest improvement from the original to the remix, and this is easily going in tier number 1. Cause yes, girl, I am so confused why she saved this for now, but I'm so glad we have it.
3, 6, 5, go. 3, 6, 5, go. 3, 6, 5, go.
This definitely feels like one of the more standard remixes on the album. It takes the original 365 and just makes it faster and higher pitched and more upbeat and bassy. We have a lot of repetition of like the main lyrics of the song. Like, these are things you would expect in a typical kind of clubby remix, so I'm glad it's there for that reason. Shy Girl's verse is great, it's fun, but it doesn't really hit the same way as the original in my opinion. I love 365 a lot. It's been my top 3 on the original Brat. I was quite excited for this remix, but I don't know, it kinda disappointed, I'm not gonna lie. That might be the hottest take of this video because I can totally understand why this remix is the way it is. It really fits the clubby nature of the song and thus it's a good way to round out the album, certainly. But yeah, I still prefer the original. This one is not a skip though, it's not a knife, so we're putting it in tier number 4. Guess with Billie Eilish is going to go in tier number 1, mainly just for its popularity. It's a very standard remix where it's just the original song with Billie's added verse, but because Billie's verse is so good, I love Billie Eilish obviously, it adds a lot to the song. It adds a new color to it, and yeah, when listening to the original Guess, it just kind of feels empty without Billie's added verse, without them chuckling together, without "Hey Billie, you there?"
Hey Billy, you there?
And because to me. So yeah, I don't think the remix is doing anything like crazy to outshine the original, but just due to the fact that it's so popular, due to how much I like Billie Eilish and her contribution to the song, it's going in tier number 1.
Got my finger on the detonator. Crazy girl shit, gonna go spring breakers.
Okay, last but not least, we have Spring Breakers with Kesha. I don't know why she just put this out a day later. You could have put it on the main album, but go off, girl. It's cute. It's a fun vibe. We're putting this in tier number 3, bumping that beat. To me, Kesha's verse is great. It's fun, but it's not really doing anything like crazy to outshine the original song. I know that sounds super contradictory to what I just talked about with Guess, but I don't know. I've never particularly cared for Spring Breakers in the first place anyways. And the remix didn't like magically make the song super good to me. Whereas I think with Guess it was different. With Guess I never cared much for the original, but then with Billie's added verse I actually started to enjoy the song a lot more. So yeah, it's a fun song. The remix is fun. They're kind of on par with each other. So that's every remix ranked, but before we end the video, I do want to show my track by track ranking of the original album and the remix album like I talked about. Again, the tier system we just went through was about how each remix compared to its original, not necessarily just how much I liked the remix at hand as a standalone track, but this ranking is that. It's just a ranking of the tracks as they are one by one. So yeah, take it for what you will. I feel like I've just been gushing about this album for like the last half hour or however long this video ends up being, and that might just be because it's only been a week, so it's still pretty new. But I think she really outdid herself with this album, and Brat Autumn is in, and it's here to stay. And I'm putting my predictions down now. Hello Goodbye remix is coming, and I'm just gonna say, I think it could be with Taylor Swift. It could be. That I'm putting my predictions down right now. It's delusional. I know it's very delusional. But hey, she has to get around to it at some point. And maybe she's saving a really special collaboration for the last announcement. You never know. And more than that, I think Taylor would genuinely fit super well on Hello Goodbye. The song is very like 1989 Lover vibes. So even if the remix doesn't happen, which like, yeah, it probably won't, can someone do like an AI cover of Taylor singing it? Maybe that already exists. I don't know, but I want to hear it. Anyways, that's the video. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you thought, if you agreed or disagreed. I am going to try to drop the Billie Eilish discography ranking video next Friday, but no promises. It's gonna take some time. I do have 2 exams next week, so that's great. I can never win. But we'll see what happens. Okay, that's all for this one. Bye!